Good news for you, bad news for me. This Micro Nikkor 55mm has probably the worst case of oily aperture blades I've seen. We're going to take a closer look at it. I'll go over what causes it and the two issues that it'll cause with a lens that will make it unusable. How to tell if there's oil on the aperture blades is pretty simple. Just close the lens down all the way and take a look inside, and the aperture blades will look wet because they're covered in the broken down grease or oil. You can see the droplets forming on the back of the blades. And the problem is so bad that there are actually little droplets on the inside of the lens on one of the elements in there. You can see them. Not good. And the other issue that this can cause is that instead of little droplets, the oil can vaporize if a lens is left somewhere hot, such as in a car, in an attic, or something like that. And when it cools down, it'll condense on one of the elements, causing haze. So the droplets aren't good, the haze isn't good. But more frequently what will happen is you can watch the aperture is very slow to close down or open up. And this will cause issues with the automatic feature of the lens. The diaphragm won't be able to open or close very quickly. Gonna be annoying to shoot with, probably going to cause issues with exposure. And just as a point of comparison, here is a 50mm E series. Get the aperture in focus. You can see how snappy the aperture diaphragm is. The lenses that I most commonly encounter this issue are lenses that were made in the 80s. I think it's a combination of age and the formula of grease that was popular then. Older lenses, the grease just tends to dry out and they'll need to be disassembled and cleaned out and re-greased. The 80s ones, the grease turns and separates into oil and maybe the other compounds that made it up, maybe something else, but it migrates and it gets on the aperture blades. You can fix the problem by disassembling the lens, taking out the aperture blades, cleaning them in alcohol, and cleaning other parts of the lens, re-greasing stuff and putting it back together. That is time intensive and is fairly difficult. The nice thing is that most of the lenses from the 80s and stuff are simpler lenses to work on, so it's not a daunting task. There's not a bunch of electronics and flex cables and ribbons that need to be very delicately disassembled. And generally, metal lenses, not impossible to do. I might be trying to disassemble this one and fix it. I'd really like to see how well it works, or maybe it's just not a very good lens and I end up wasting my time. But that might be in a future video. Anyways, that'll do it for this video. Hopefully you found it at least somewhat helpful. I'll have more videos in the future, like doing stuff on vintage photography gear that I don't find YouTube videos on, and other photography related things that there just isn't a lot of information out there on. So if you'd like to see those, hit subscribe, check out my other videos, and I will see you in the next one.